Almost 10 years ago, I learned one simple mind hack. And I gotta tell you, back then I couldn't quit drinking no matter what. I tried everything. I went to AA. I went to church. I read books. I read the Bible. I read Tony Robbins. I read everything. But nothing seemed to work until I found this one mind hack. And I got to tell you, I've been sober about 10 years now. I think next month marks the 10-year anniversary that I've had a drink. And this mind hack is so powerful. It is one of the biggest things that has kept me sober all these years. And maybe you're there and you're struggling and you don't know why you can't quit drinking. You don't know why you keep relapsing and you keep getting into the cycle of addiction and you don't know what's going to help. It's much like the videos we did on the Jellinek curve here, where if you have the curve the right way, you're in the grips of alcoholism down here and you're spiraling out of control and you don't know what to do. It feels like no matter what, you just keep going back to the bottle and you keep drinking and it never ends. No matter how hard you try, it's not stopping until I learned this one mind hack. And that's what we're going to talk about today. This is a mind hack that I learned and a mind hack that Terry learned. And together we've been sober almost 20 years. So, Terry, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing all right, yeah. I haven't been sober quite as long as Marcus. It took me a few months more because, as the thumbnail showed, it didn't work. And now what is it that didn't work for me? Was it like getting sober that didn't work? Was it getting my life better? I don't know. I mean, I guess it was both. It didn't work. Or was it the fact that rehab didn't work for me? Or the meetings didn't work for me? This is what a lot of people talk about, and that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit more today. But first, I got to back up a little bit, and then we'll get into that mind hack that helped get me sober as well. But what happened with me is, I found that I had to go to rehab. Why did I go to rehab? Really? I mean, deep down, why did I go to rehab? Of course, I went to rehab to stop drinking. But why did I want to stop drinking? I wanted my life to get better. I wanted to, I don't know, stop the consequences from happening. I wanted to get those friends back in my life that I drove away. I wanted to get people off my back. Now that wasn't really it for me. I really didn't have people, hounding me to get sober or anything like that, because I was a professional drinking hider. And but those other reasons were big reasons why I wanted to stop drinking and why I went to rehab. That was stopping drinking, stopping the consequences, stopping those bad feelings that I was getting, and more importantly, those consequences that were beginning to happen and that were happening and that I knew were going to get worse. And one of those big consequences for me was my health. I was really starting to get sick and things were starting to affect me. But that was a really big reason why I went to rehab. And I did not want to go, and that's the way most people are, is they don't want to go to rehab. And I know a lot of you out there have probably gotten sober without rehab and have been successful at it, and some of you have gone to rehab and not been successful. That was my case. I started drinking after I got out of rehab. Actually, within about 2 weeks or so, I started drinking again. So what was it that didn't work about rehab? I mean, I did all the stuff. I think I was a pretty model person going to rehab. I went to all the little classes and I did everything they asked me to do, and I had a game plan when I was getting out, and I tried to stay involved and stay in the middle of the herd, shall we say, of all the people that were in there. And for me, rehab was not that stressful of a situation. Of course, there's stress and there's anxiety and things like that, and I was going through withdrawals and they really were terrible, and rehab's not a walk in the park, that's for sure. But for me, mostly rehab was kind of boring, really. And I don't know, maybe that was part of what didn't work. But either way, I got out of rehab and I started drinking. And I drank for about a month or so, and then I quit again on my own. I wasn't going to pay the money for rehab, so I quit on my own and had a big medical emergency because of that. And then I finally got sober, and I'm still sober today, almost 10 years later. Now, what worked the second time that didn't work the first time? That's there's a lot involved there, but there was one thing, and that one thing was me. And that one thing can be you too. If you're still trying to get sober, if you're fighting that sobriety, you're on that spiral at the bottom of the gelitic curve. It, it's you. I mean, I needed help, and I reach out for help when I need it now. And I've looked for people to help me all along, but really it's me. It's my responsibility to get sober. No one else is going to get me sober. Lots of people are going to help. There's doctors, there's family. Of course, your family probably wants you to get sober, unless, well, maybe they have their issues too. But for the most part, people that love you, they want you to get sober. The doctors want you to get sober. The fellow sober alcoholics definitely want you to get sober. I know when if I didn't show up for meetings, I went to a lot of meetings in the beginning, and if I didn't show up for meetings for a few days, I'd get a phone call from somebody. They'd be like, "Hey, what's going on?" Of course you need help, and of course you need a support system, but really it's me. I'm the one that has to decide the most important thing, which is I am not going to drink no matter what, and sobriety is going to be the most important thing in my life without exception. Because if I don't stay sober, not, I'm not going to have anything. I'm not going to have that house. I'm not going to have the life. I'm going to sit in a dark house and watch terrible TV. And that's just what's going to happen. I've proved it to myself again and again. Now, there's a lot of other factors involved in this, but really, it still comes down to me. I'm the one that has to get the alcohol out of the house. I'm the one that has to make sure I'm not going to bars and hanging out with my old drinking friends. Now, I mean, you don't have to completely eliminate those friends, but maybe going to a bar, especially in early sobriety, is not a good idea. And for me, even almost 10 years into sobriety, my rule for a place like a bar is I'll go to one. I'm okay with it. I'm not going to go to one to go watch the football game. I'm going to go to one to meet somebody about business. There's going to be a legitimate reason for me to go if I'm going to go to a place like that. But doing things like staying out of not going to parties, especially in early sobriety, but parties where there's alcohol or events where alcohol is the main thing, and that's the kind of things that I have to try to do. And now there's a lot of don'ts. I'm talking about all these don't do things, don't do this, don't do that, and that's it's a big part of that staying sober, but it doesn't have to be everything. For me, the next thing is I have to develop good habits, and that's habits where I can develop this life that I don't have to run from. And that would be things like that I like to do. So I've talked about this many times, and that's like the hobbies, stuff like that. For me, it's cycling, hanging out with my wife, doing many activities with my wife, who knows where I'm at, obviously, in my alcoholism, and and things like that. We go skiing in the winter, cycling in the summer. We walk the dog every day, even if it's like 10 below zero. we'll still do that. We things that I enjoy doing. And actually, I enjoy walking the dog in 10 below zero. There's nobody else out there. It's funny. I don't know why. It's beautiful, but those good habits are a great thing to do. And some other things that I have to do in sobriety, and this is a sticking point for many people. I'm pretty good at this. I always have been. I don't really worry about what other people are doing unless it affects me. It's like, many of us get wound up with the news and things like that, and I can too, but I am able to let it go. And that's one thing I have to do in sobriety, is let go of what other people are doing. And the price of gasoline, or the current state of the politics, or what's going on. I stay informed, but I try not to let it consume me, and what other people are doing as well. I have a good friend that he had quite a long time. I'm talking like a couple of decades of struggling with alcohol, getting sober. I think he was sober for like 16 years at one point, but going back to drinking and then sober and then drunk and sober and drunk, and he found himself really just kind of going with those conspiracy theories. I'm not talking about like the political conspiracy theories. I'm talking about like calling the cable company and trying to deal with the situation with the attitude of all they're trying to do is rip me off, or the contractor that you have coming over to do some work on your place. All they're trying to do is rip me off, or this guy over here that I have to deal with every day. He's got some ulterior motive, and I don't worry about that stuff. I worry about what I am doing. What can I do to be positive, to help other people, and to not drink? And that's kind of what I try to do every day on a daily basis. But what it comes down to, and I'm not saying that this hack is easy. It's not. It's really hard to take responsibility for your own sobriety and for your own life. And I hear a lot of people talk about sobriety, and they do emphasize that you need help and this and that. And sometimes we can just kind of push all of our responsibility onto them, where they're not the ones that are going to drink and ruin our own lives. I'm the one that's going to ruin my own life. If rehab didn't work for me, it's not their fault. And actually, even though I didn't come out of rehab sober, or I came out of there sober, even though I started drinking again, I think rehab was an extremely valuable thing for me. It taught me a lot. It taught me about alcoholism. It taught me the first steps on what to do in life. And it did teach me some basics for getting through life sober and how to live sober. And if nothing else, it got me sober for a month, which I hadn't done in years. So I was able to experience it and start to experience the joy of sobriety. And that's what it was. But I came out of there, out of rehab, not taking responsibility for my sobriety. And because of that, I took a drink. And that's all it was, is I took that one drink, and then it just started again. And why not take another? Oh, why not go buy a big bottle? Why not drink a bottle? Well, wasn't consciously thinking about how much I was drinking at that point, but then I was drinking lots every day. And when I finally did get sober, it was me that decided that I'm going to do whatever it takes to not drink, no matter what. And that's what I did. Now, part of that, for me, and this is not always everyone's issue, but for me, if I really look deep down inside, for me, it was fear. And I was afraid to open up to other people. I was afraid to go to those meetings and be open. The meetings, they talk about a lot of things that I'm like, what? What are you talking about? They do that. But I had to learn to let that go. And maybe there was a little snippet of what that person said that I was like, oh, I relate to that. Oh, okay. All right. We're not as different as I think we are. And start to embrace some of those things that that help me, or that I can relate to, that I can use to stay sober on that daily basis. So for me, that was kind of the hack. And I'm not sure if you have a different hack or not, Marcus, but for me, it was definitely my personal responsibility. So what do you think about this?
Yeah, I think that we got an echo. Okay, let's see. Why am I getting an echo? All right. Are you guys getting an echo? I don't know where that's coming from. But I was going to say that the key for me is changing your life philosophy, which was much like what you had said, Terry, where, you know, you're looking at, okay, how do I get the focus off of me and my own ego and realize that, hey, I got a drinking problem. I need to solve this, and this is the issue. Now, in early sobriety, I needed to realize that chemical dependency was the key. That was it. And that kept me over. So it's kind of like you're going to have these bridges in sobriety that you cross. And once you cross them, you kind of can't look back. Like if I relapse now, it would be a conscious decision to go and drink and screw things up because whatever reason. Where before it wasn't so much conscious, it was just an automatic response. Now I look at it and it's like my life philosophy have changed to where, you know, I don't look at things the same. So where you looked at things where you were the victim and everything was against you and things like that, I was very similar. But then when I changed my life philosophy and really looked at personal responsibility, and my job is to respond, right? I respond to things. I can't change what other people do. I can't change what the politicians do, right? Everyone gets excited about politicians, and it's like, you really can't do anything about it. Like, are you an elected official? No. You know, so what am I going to do? Unless I plan on doing something about it, I'm not going to complain about it, and it's not going to be part of my makeup. What I look at now is my life philosophy of I'm not going to drink, I'm going to do the best I can, I'm going to treat people properly, and I'm going to deal with things as they come my way. And I'm going to deal with them from a place of strength rather than weakness. And not strength in the sense that, oh, I'm the big king who deserves this and that. No, that's more of the old stuff. A place of strength in knowing that my job is just to respond. Someone cuts me off in traffic, okay, I can respond. I can get road rage, I can get angry, or I could let them go. Right? Just the other day, we're talking about a comment on one of my channels where someone was very rude, and it's easy to engage. But if you come from a life philosophy of, you know what, that person probably having a bad day, whatever they're dealing with is their bag. I'm not going to let that affect me. I'm not going to let that come into my life and my things. And dealing with things very rationally and calculated. Sometimes it's, takes a cue from Stoic philosophy. I've read a lot of Stoic philosophy. And while it seems like Stoic people are, it gets a rap for being non-emotional, actually I think it's emotional but not drawn into it. It's like there's a Bible verse, and quoting the Bible is kind of whatever. I used to be a big Bible person, now not so much. But the Bible verse was, be angry and sin not, which means, okay, I can be angry, but am I going to take it to the next level of getting in a brawl? No. So there's that, be angry. It's okay to feel what you feel, but then your choice of what to do with it. As alcoholics, we feel what we feel and we act based on that feeling without thinking. And our life philosophy is, you harm me, I'm coming at you. I need to feel better, so I'm drinking. It's a very, very selfish way of living, only some of us don't see it. For me, I didn't see it because I thought, well, I'm nice to everyone and I want everyone to do good, so I don't see how that's selfish way of life. But it actually was, because I was focused on my feeling. Even my wanting people to be okay and take care of them was my selfish way of feeling, oh, I have a better way for their life, therefore I can help them with it, right? Some of the hidden subtleties of selfishness are not seen until we humble ourselves and say, hey, you know what? I'm not the be-all, end-all. I don't have all the answers. Life shouldn't be going my way or this way. Life just goes, and I get in the flow. That's how it works. It'd be like if you were standing on the side of the river and you're splashing around mad that the water's going one way. Or you dive in and go that way and then figure out how to live with it, right? How do I go down the stream, down the river? And you're going to find it's a lot easier than standing there fighting the river. Go with the flow. Now, is that to say, let's let everything affect us and just be a pushover? Not at all. It's to say, go with the flow that is going, and figure out what you are going to do and what you aren't going to do by your life philosophy. What are the codes I live by? What are my ethics? What are my responsibilities? What do I want and what do I not want? What happens in sobriety is there is a hidden benefit that is you get to choose your life and your responses. I think Terry would agree that after almost 10 years of sobriety, we have both learned that we can choose our response. Where before we'd drink and we'd feel and we'd feel, and then we'd drink and we'd feel and drink and drink and feel, and blah, 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 it's a big mess. Now we get to pause and say, I'm sober. Like just last night, I was dealing with an issue that was very dear to my heart and difficult. And I was able to step back and say, I can't really do anything about this till the morning. So I'll go to sleep. And I don't need to worry about my ego because it doesn't matter. Any person that's trying to hurt your ego isn't really hurting your ego. They're just trying to get what they want, and that's the best way they know how. Does that make it okay? Do we elect the next, dictator to take over everything and just, no, not at all. But that means we slowly calculate and respond and listen and respond and slow life down. I found that the first year of sobriety, my life was slower than ever. It was crawling. That clock, I'm like, the damn battery's out of it? What's going on here? But it allowed me to realize that I'm not the be-all most important. I remember years ago, my dad was a funny guy. Miss him a lot. And years ago, he was very ego-driven. At least he was back when I was growing up. And unfortunately, it took cancer to help that. He changed his life because something major happened, and same for me. If I wasn't an alcoholic, these things wouldn't have happened. I was too damn stubborn. I needed to go to the mental hospital and be like, here's the best you got, right? And I remember one day we were sitting in my room, and this guy who was, not a super educated dude, was talking to my dad, and my dad was talking about how businessmen make the world spin. And this guy turns to him, and we all knew, this guy barely had a GED in anything, and he, not that there's anything wrong with that, he just was not up to speed. And he turns to my dad, who, wasn't super educated, but he was in the business world for many years. And he says, well, why don't you make it stop? If you're the type of guy who makes the world spin, you ought to be able to make it stop. And it was very interesting because at that moment, it was like, well, wait a minute. This idea that I have, these things we say that are so solid and we believe them so much are founded on nothing. My dad didn't make anything spin. Can't even make a little piece of dirt spin. Now, did he conduct business? Sure, anyone can do that. Great, wonderful. You were good at it. Great, wonderful. But I think the key is we are not as important as we think we are, which for some people is like, oh my God, what do I do? Terry and I learned that it's the biggest blessing ever, because now the world doesn't revolve around me. It never did. I just thought it did. But now I think it doesn't. I'm like, hey, I'm just as important as everyone listening here. I can't sit here and be like, oh, I quit drinking, therefore you little folks come unto me and I shall show thee the way. No, I'm a drunk just like you, and luckily someone slapped me in a mental hospital and I figured out enough to not drink. But we're all in the same boat together, and when we get that ego involved and it gets in the way and we try to fight and claw, we're coming from a place of lack. It's like here on Earth. There's almost 9 billion people on planet Earth. There's enough food that grows out of the dirt to feed every single one of them. And guess how much that cost? 0. It's free. It's literally free. If you just put some food in the dirt, it'll come back out with more food. It's like food having babies in the dirt. Magic. And yet, wars are fought over lack, and people live in lack. Why? Ego. Ego is because you're living in lack. But if you realize, hey, there's enough for people to go around, will I be able to buy 15 yachts? I don't know. If you're willing to do the work to get 15 yachts, probably, maybe. But do you really want them? Is that really what's going to help? And we realize the world is literally full of everything we need. And if you're dealing and you say, well, everyone's mean, well, go hang out at a nice people convention. I tell my friends and family this all the time, where it's like, I can't find the right person. It's like there's 8 billion people on Earth and you can't find the right person? It's got to be out there somewhere, right? And we start to realize that the ego just gets in the way of everything. And once we let that go, we can stay sober. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that was very philosophical. Finding the let me go. Let's see. Finding the right person. For me, it's a matter of not looking so hard, and same with life. And staying sober is yes. It's the most important thing is to not drink, and I am the one that has to do that. And Marcus, you're talking a lot about acceptance and accepting that life is the way it is, and that I am not the center of life. I'm my center, but that's it. And my significance in this world may be big, may be small, but really it doesn't matter. For me, it's a matter of just trying to live a good life, trying to help people where I can, trying to be a good person. And I think I do a pretty good job, although I think there's people that don't like me. And it's something I have to let go of. I cannot control how other people think.
Yeah.
And the letting go aspect of it, which you were alluding to as well, it's big. And I had my wife and I we meet some people every week, and we have an issue with one of the new people that came, and we've had an issue for a few weeks now. And the person that kind of hosts this get together, he came over and talked to us, and there was a couple issues and that I wanted that I shared, but I'm like, yeah, but okay, there's these issues, but at the same time, this is my issue. Why? I'm just letting you know what it is, but I don't expect you to deal with this. It's my responsibility to deal with this. It's my responsibility to blow it off and not worry about it, or approach this person and discuss what my issue is with what they're doing. And that's kind of what it is, and or just accept that, okay, this is the way the person is. One way for me to approach it would be to look at what that person's gone through. I don't know them very well, but I'm sure they've had their bumps and bruises in life, and I'm sure that that's where they're coming from. They're coming from their own experience. So who am I to say that they're wrong with what they're talking about? I can't. I can say that I don't like the way you make me feel, and that's about it. So a lot of it is letting go and just accepting what other people, what's happening in the world, and accepting it doesn't mean that I'm okay with it necessarily. I'm not okay with a lot of the politics that's going on in the world. I'm not okay with certain people that I have to deal with, but I can accept the fact that that's the way it is. That's okay. And one other thing I can do is be grateful for what I have. Sure, we all got problems. And some of us have huge problems. Absolutely. And I've had those. I don't have any big problems right now, I don't think. But I've had them, and I've had to deal with them. And what do? All I can do is just go through the problems, go through the issues, the challenges I have, go through them as they come up. You hear all the time, one day at a time, and those are in the rooms, AA, and we'll live one day at a time. Well, how am I going to plan for the future if I just live one day at a time? I can still plan for the future, but living one day at a time means dealing with what I can deal with today. So I have all this stuff to get to where I want to be in a year or whatever it is. To get to where I want to be in a week, I got all this stuff I need to do, okay? But what can I do today? I can't get it all done today. My list would be this long. So I'll just do what I can do today. What's my priority? I need to do this and this and this. And then if I have time, I'll get this done. Or I need to get the paperwork done. But do I want to do it now when it's light out and warm? No, I want to go do the outside stuff or whatever, things like that. and I have to prioritize and think about, okay, well, and also for sobriety, I like to do something for my sobriety on a daily basis. So what am I going to do for my sobriety today? Well, today I'm going to do a YouTube video with and get some great comments from people. And that's what I'm going to do. Tomorrow, what am I going to do for sobriety? Will I hit a meeting or call somebody or talk to somebody? I have many friends that are sober, and I talk to a lot of them pretty often, and that's probably what I'll do. I'll do something like that. And it's kind of I'm training for this a really big bike ride in June, and that's another thing that I do is what am I going to do for training? I can't just go get to June and not having been on my bicycle at all. You got to get ready, and that's same with sobriety. Like for the cycling, um, it's not just getting your muscles in shape, right? This is a multi-day event. Got to deal with the camping. Okay, what am I going to do for camping? I need to get good sleep. What am I going to do to wash the stuff I'm wearing? Okay, what about the shorts and the jerseys and the shoes and all that? What am I going to use? I also have to be on the bike not just to get my muscles in shape, but you ever sat on a bike seat for 50 miles a day for 6 days in a row? I'm sure many of you are going, ouch. And yeah, you got to know what you're going to do to prevent that ouch from happening, or your shoulders get sore, your feet get sore, things like that. Oh, what am I going to use I got to think about sunscreen, all these little things. Now, sobriety, I have to do many of the same things is think about what are the little things I'm going to do. And for me, one of them might be gratitude. What am I grateful for? Well, I'm grateful I get to get on my bike. Many people don't get to do that. I get to ride my bike in one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to every day. And I get to do that. I'm super grateful for that. I'm grateful that I've been going through this sobriety journey with Marcus for all these years now. And I think we've helped each other stay sober. We've both been through quite a bit in sobriety, and it's helping a lot. Damien said, "Saddle sore." Yes, you got it. Yeah, and yeah, cycling seats do hurt if you're not used to them, and that's the key. Sobriety hurts if you're not used to it too. And that's the longer I stay sober, the easier it seems. Although as long I do have to keep in mind that it's just going to take that one drink, so I can't do that one drink. And I wanted to get Mrs. B. I'm glad you joined our program. Thank you. I appreciate that. Now, if it was today or yesterday, I missed it, and I'll reach out to you. Definitely. So glad you're here. And yeah, so that's the kind of things that I try to do daily is just move in the right direction. And yeah, one day at a time, definitely, but look for the future. But what it comes down to is me. I'm the one that has to keep me sober. For you guys, it's what you have to do. It's your responsibility to stay sober. And that doesn't mean don't reach out for help. That just means you are the one that has to reach out for help. Nobody's going to do it for you. And speaking of which, we have an online recovery class, and Marcus just brought that up on the screen. And you can go over to talksober.com and check it out. And we have MP3s and videos and exercises and worksheets to work through. And it's a 30-day program, but you can take as long or as short a time as you want to get through it. And we teach you many of the things that we're talking about. This is what Marcus and I have done in sobriety. It's what we wish that was presented to us. We've kind of figured it out on our own, but that's what we have to do. And there's a sign-up sheet, and you can just fill in your name and your email address, your address, and then fill in your payment information. It's a monthly fee, not expensive, $27 a month. And you can also get a private sobriety call with Marcus and myself. And there's also, you just go click that button and you can show up there. You can join our Facebook group and talk to other people that are of like mind as far as trying to stay sober. And some people share some of the issues they have or they've had or are having as they're going through sobriety. And you can usually get some good advice from people. And remember, it is Facebook, so I wouldn't take medical advice on there, but definitely it's a good place to talk to people that are trying to stay sober. So yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So yeah, that's the deal. Mind hack is, flip your life philosophy. Start thinking about things differently and realize that the problem is drinking and the problem is me. Those are two things that if I solve, life will start to get better. So thanks for being here. Check out talksober.com. Join our course. We'll see you in there. And we'll